Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us here at the Mexican Cultural Institute of the Embassy of Mexico in the United States. We're celebrating our 30th anniversary, and I have the honor to have right here with me Magos Herrera and Paola Prestini. Magos Herrera is a very accomplished Mexican jazz singer. She's based in New York. She is currently in San Miguel de Allende, as I understand it, and she's traveled the world with her music, and she has gotten practically every award of her category, and we're very proud of her as Mexicans, and we're very humbled to have her with us. And Paola is in Arizona, so we have 3 different time zones working right now, and she is a composer and a connector, and she is the artistic director and co-founder of National Sawdust. And Paola, I'm afraid I'm not going to do it a lot of justice, so I would ask you to explain to us what National Sawdust is, so that people not in Brooklyn can know what it is.
Sure. National Sawdust is a space that I co-founded. We're now in our 5th season, and it is a sonically extraordinary space that joins together music of all styles, creators of sound of all styles, with deep mentorship and incredible performing opportunity.
Thank you. And well, I just want to thank you again. We're very honored to have you here, and I know that this is difficult to arrange and to get everyone on the same page on 3 different places, 3 different cities. And also it's difficult not just because of physical distance, the physical distancing that we're having to do because of the pandemic, but because it's also a time of a lot of pain and a lot of rage and of clamors for justice in the face of really just harrowing racism and inequities. And I think we're going to inevitably have to speak to that, because we are talking about the new normal and what that represents for arts and culture. And the new normal is not still here. This is nothing like normal at all. And we know we're going to have to take certain precautions for a little while. We don't know how little, actually. But I would like to just ask Magos, we were supposed to see a video that we're going to show our audience in a little bit that we commissioned for our anniversary. And we talked to you about it, and we wanted to create something and to give you the freedom to create something, even in the midst of the complexities of doing it. And I know that you were in San Miguel de Allende and Chano Dominguez was in Barcelona. Could you tell us about that, how that worked?
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you for having us. I'm so happy to be here and with the audience that is joining us in our platforms. I'm so happy to share this space with Paola. I have to say a little bit more about National Sawdust, as I consider it my artistic home in New York, and I'm incredibly grateful for Paola to making me part of that, because it gave me a sense of belonging in such an intense and vast scene, artistic scene, which is New York. And I'm so happy to share this conversation with her and with you, because National Sawdust not only represent a space, but also a social, an incredibly deep social awareness platform through arts. So I think this is going to be great. And now talking about this video that hopefully we're going to get to see later, I think this is a beautiful example of what we're facing right now. You know, like the impulse of artists is to create. It doesn't matter what is happening, but we want to create. And I want to quote something that I read on an interview of director Peter Sellers, and it says, "Whatever is at hand might serve to make ourselves more alive. Tragedy serves, history serves, spirituality serves, human relationship serves. And now, if we can figure out what we need and what we don't need, maybe we will emerge differently. And this exercise of doing this video commissioned by you guys to celebrate your anniversary.
Thank you.
Felicidades. Felicidades. It was a challenge because Chano, which is one of the greatest, pianists of our times, and he was a visionary that put together flamenco with jazz back in the days. And I grew up listening to his music, and he was in isolation in Barcelona. We all know that Spain was one of the more affected places in the world by COVID. And so we had to wait a little till they were able to go out for 2 hours, like for shopping or whatever. And Chano took the risk to go out. They lent him this space, this venue, because we wanted to do beautiful, with the black background, like to give something different of what we have seen for the last 3 months on platforms, with these apps that we've seen. We wanted to offer something different as an exercise. And I was able to, they lent me here in San Miguel in Mexico, a theater, a beautiful, beautiful venue, a theater that it's amazing. And I went there myself. Someone opened for me. And it was a very strange experience, to be alone on stage, recording over Chano's music playing, trying to make it alive and to make it interactive, as the nature of jazz is, to play in the moment and to really make, bring it into under my skin and really make it alive and really mean the lyrics of this incredible song. But also the experience, it's when I actually understood the power of what is happening. I was alone in this venue where I have performed so many times, a beautiful theater, empty theater, alone, singing. And I really felt the lack of humanity. And so it was a beautiful exercise. And I think that the final material was a beautiful video with a really powerful, timely song by Victor Heredia, which we all know by Mercedes Sosa singing. And it was just a generous effort by Chano, which I'm incredibly grateful, and Jose, the cajon player, and also the guys, which is also something that we're going to talk about today, like Alex Wenger and Oscar Sembrano, my audio people, which make a beautiful work, because we recorded in through our iPhones, and the resources were so limited, and the sound is amazing. They did an incredible job. And also Adrian Tillman, who did the editing of the video.
And Magos, did you get a chance to listen to Chano's arrangement of the song beforehand? Did you know what he was going to play? Did he know what you were going to sing? I mean, I know the song. You had talked about the song, but this is not Mercedes Sosa's Razón de Vivir. It sounds so different. It just has your imprint. And I was wondering, when I saw the video, how did that work, though? I mean, did you talk about this before?
Well, I think that's the beauty of music, that, and the beauty of particularly of jazz, that you make music. It doesn't matter where it comes from and how it gets to you. You just make it yours. And we talked about the form, what we wanted to do as the form, the key, of course, but I didn't have any control on how he was gonna perform it. I really wanted to have but there is this element that happens when you play live, that it's live, that it has its nuances of live performance, which actually is reflected in the video. And when I got Chano's part, I just navigate into it as many times as possible to really to really feel that I was with him in the room and just transform it into my own thing.
Well, we're very grateful that you took the time and the interest to do that. And Paola, this actually brings me to what I wanted to talk about, this experience with Magos. One of the first things we saw after we had to isolate in our houses was artists sharing their art for free from their living room homes on sweatpants, just singing, playing the piano. I saw plays taking place literally in living rooms, people reading their stuff, lending it for downloading free of charge. And that, I mean, that was, that gave us hope. It helped us pass the time thinking about something other than the tragedy that was going on around us. But it's unsustainable because this is how most of these artists make their living. This is how they actually get paid. And I feel like very quickly it became something that we expected they did. Like, lend me your content, like sing for me. I'm gonna do a live show on my YouTube channel and I would like you to sing. And I don't think everyone was prepared to offer fair retribution. And I think also this is especially hard in the case of artists and of color, I think, just because as a rule, they're freelancers, all artists are, and they're not under contract most of the time, or just not the most famous ones at least. And what do you think should happen now? Because it's been 3 months. We cannot keep this going for a lot longer. And how would you, after the emergency, now it's the pre-normality, I would call it, before we start going out, but not being able to go to venues and to sit close to other people.
So,
how would you manage it from National Sawdust?
Well, I'm going to speak to it as both someone who, writes music and someone who founded a space. I would say that the first instinct for all of us, because we connect through our music, was to express ourselves in moments, where we don't have connection all of a sudden, and where there's so much at stake and where there's so much unknown. And so I think the first impulse to share, to share moments together in the ways that everyone knew how was very instinctual and very natural. I think pretty quickly after, at National Sawdust, and I can only speak to National Sawdust, it was very clear that we would have to pivot very immediately to address the immediate kind of needs of artists. And I think that I think we've done a pretty good job. I think, like everybody else, our first instinct as well was to share archives and to put the work that we had been doing for 5 years out there. But pretty quickly after, we were very fortunate to receive a really significant anonymous donation that then ended up being an incredible foundation called Alpha-Dean, which supported essentially our transfer to a live stage where we were able to pay over 100 artists, significant funds to be able to perform, but also to transfer the kind of mentorship that we were doing in the venue to essentially mentorship in this kind of digital age. So how do you sound, how do you actually work with recording equipment? How do you make sure that you sound good? And so I think that ability to pivot is really specifically because, one, we are artist-led and I'm a practicing artist, and two, we were ready to completely reimagine a business model, which is much harder to do when you're a legacy institution and you have so much more at stake. So I felt fortunate that we were able to be responsive, but I also think that we're in a very particular time. A good friend of mine said to me, I'm an evolutionary and you're a revolutionary. And I had never thought of myself that way. And what I realized actually is that we need both. We need to absolutely revolt against the things that are so wrong in our society. And there's something really significant about the fact that it's all.
See, Magos, this is the kind of thing. Oh, there she is.
There she is.
The first thing I was just saying is this need to kind of immediately address all these things coming to the surface, and then how do we act? So how do we listen and how do we act to address, in the ways we can through art, these very, very complicated times that we're living in.
And I want to come back in a little bit to fundraising and crowdfunding, because I think this is something that's been going on during the pandemic. But I want to, before that, I just want to ask you both, how do you feel about this? The way I see it there's all the supply chain of the creative industries has to evolve, as you've said, and it has to reinvent itself. But I think there's the two ends of that supply chain is are the ones that concern me the most, and that's the actual creator and the audience. Because as the connectors, because I really just love that you use that word, as connectors, as the managers of venues, there's still something that we can do. We have to adapt, most certainly. But I think creators and audiences are being, we're asking a lot of them. We're asking creators to work on very difficult circumstances, and we're asking audiences to modify what they expect from the experience. And how would you think that would work going forward? Not hunker down like we are right now, but not at full capacity, like we won't be able to be for a while, at least.
Well, I mean, I think Magos, we can speak about how we're doing it together in terms of the project that we're about to embark on. And I think our artists, look, artists throughout time have always been, extremely resilient, but also have had really, really difficult times creating in challenging circumstances. There's all sorts of gatekeeping. There's the reality of not being able to, afford living. There's, if you choose to be a parent, how do you survive? I mean, economically. So there's all sorts of challenges. And I think, if anything, artists are really equipped to kind of pivot and to ask really difficult questions and to kind of lead with change. So I think in terms of how artists are going to be creating, there's going to be a resiliency, but the truth is the kind of larger institutions and foundations, which they are doing, are going to have to step up, because the system right now is not going to work financially to kind of bridge, if you will, to the next phase, which I don't think is going to be a new normal, because I think it's going to be very different. And then I think for audiences, I think everybody wants that moment of connection. And so people are more open to absorb content in different ways. And I think that people are working, venues and artists are working to kind of create high caliber content and high caliber collaborations in really new and exciting ways.
You're right. Magos?
Right. And I think also, so let's just address something, that the music industry has been changing like very dramatically way before COVID. So the way we grew up with the music industry is not existing anymore.
Right.
So as Paola said, we have been reinventing how we manage our business part as creators way before COVID. So I think this is just another step to navigate as creators. And also, just adding to what Paola said, and not to be repetitive, I think there is also a point that I want to address, which is also the audiences, because we as artists, we create in the spirit of closing the circle. You need the audience to make sense of what you create. So it's both the responsibility of the artist and the audience to respond. So I think this conversation that we're having, and the ones that we're going to have for the next years, the years to come, we have to involve also the audiences. How we all reimagine how we're going to perceive art, how we're going to consume art, how we're going to reimagine the public space, how we're going to participate in inhabiting the cultural venues. Right. So I think this is a conversation that has to be also open to the audiences, as we all benefit from culture and arts. And obviously right now there are, and I think we talked about this before this talk, Ishnik, there are already many initiatives that are happening for artists to monetize what they're doing. Patreon, Facebook is creating already a platform that works that way too. Bands in town. So of course, there are many initiatives that are going to start helping artists to monetize, selling merch. But I think really we have to re-educate in how we're gonna, as audiences, how we're gonna support our artists. Not in the spirit of let's support them it's like let's all make this happen and and benefit from what art brings to all of us. And also try to replicate the experience, which is never going to be the same, of the live performing experience.
Right. And we're going to have to learn to consume content differently. I mean, at least for a while. And I think that's one of the hardest things as far as art and culture, as I see it. And not the least because, as we just experienced, we have some technical difficulties that are completely out of our control. And we, in the spirit of trying to replicate the experience of having you live and to roll the video before we started our conversation, we planned it out, we rehearsed it. I mean, it's not like we just connected you to Zoom and started talking about this. This has taken a lot of time, and still there's something that happens that is beyond our control. And in this new medium, I think we run the risk of just losing the audience. And if it stops, if it crashes, if we lose Paola for a minute, then people are just going to move on to the next thing on their feed, because there's so much of it right now. And I think we're going to have to learn to be more precise on what we put out there and what we consume as audiences and both as creators. I would like to talk to you about what we mentioned before about these ways to monetize. I think we lost Paola. She'll come back. There she is. And like Patreon. Could you tell our audience what model Patreon is, what kind of work they do, and how it's working for performers?
Do you want to go ahead, Paola?
Whoever.
No, I'm gonna let you do that because I actually haven't used Patreon.
Okay.
So I can speak of it, different kind of fundraising models, but not that one.
And then we'll go to you, Paola, with different models.
Well, I'm exploring it. And the reason why I haven't, well, first of all, Patreon is like the platform where your super mega hyper fans are gonna get to see, or gonna have access to materials that other people in social media don't have access to.
Okay.
And you pay, a membership, a monthly membership to be part of this platform. I think it's great because then you can actually monitor who your fans, like super fans are, and the ones that really want this content, they're going to go there. So I definitely think it's being created by a musician. So that's a big difference because he understands what our artists need and what your audience need. But I haven't signed up because, again, I think it's a time to observe as well. Because as Paola said, our intuition tells us as creators, do things, be there with the community, embrace everyone and be embraced. But I think to me, I'm being very wise and very careful about what I share and how I share it. And this is something that needs to be said because we've been building our artistic careers, in my case, for over 2 decades. And everything that we share to our audiences is very carefully produced. As it's a reflection of decades of hard work, and you want to keep that level of quality and artistry, and so I think it's very important to really level out what you want to share it, how you want to share it, and also to educate all of us as we go, as we learn this new reality, to really produce that, you know, to be very careful about how and what we share. I think that's what but I haven't navigated too deeply.
Okay, but you're considering it. Let's just
Yes.
tell your super fans that you're considering it, just in
That's
case.
right.
And Paola, what other models have you seen that might work?
Well, I mean, I can only speak to the models, for how I built my career and how I helped build National Sawdust. And, when I was, graduated from Juilliard, I started the first nonprofit that I co-directed. And for me, it was interesting. I was a Paul and Daisy Soros Fellow, and I kind of created a family of support and of I guess, just a very nurturing network of people around me that organically grew with me, and I grew with them to create a supportive network around the work I was doing. That really came out of necessity of being a woman composer and realizing how many obstacles were out there in terms of the gatekeeping that exists at every level of our industry. And so it became much easier for me and more authentic to who I was as a human being to really create a network of support and of people who believed in me and who I believed in them. There are challenges, in terms of building a philanthropic community, in terms of educating each other, but I think the thing that I've noticed and that I've loved the most about building a network of support is that I see these relationships as exactly that. They're relationships. I learn from them, they learn from me, we challenge each other. There's situations in which we grow, in which we've challenged each other, and I think that is very human. And is something that I've always, and then look into building National Sawdust, where we have a quite large body of support. And I feel the same way with the foundations with whom I've nurtured relationships with, is that we're growing together and there's a kind of philanthropic mission in which we're aligned and we can create change together. So I think, that is kind of how I've adopted my own career in terms of, I do commissions, so I'll do operas like people commission, but then I also commission myself. And then build that, body of support around work so that I can express myself and grow in the ways that I want to do. I think going forward, we're going to see a lot of foundations committing to addressing the issues of gatekeeping that exists at all levels in our industry, in terms of gender, in terms of race, in terms of all the inequities that we face. And I think this is a really good moment. And it is a moment of rebellion, and it is a moment of evolution. And so I, like Magos, am listening. I've had work canceled for years that I've been developing for 5 years. So I'm building, and when you build, the great poet Borges said, you have to build a sandstone. And so there's a feeling right now that everything is crumbling underneath me, but at the same time that there's a great possibility to rebuild in new ways. And I don't want to miss that opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have a lot of very kind messages. They're congratulating you both, and they send you love and hugs. And I have a special one
nice.
from Ambassador Bárcena, who's our ambassador here in the United States. And she says, thanks to all who are accompanying us to celebrate the 30th anniversary of the Mexican Cultural Institute. To listen to Magos and Paola is very illustrative. As Magos says, it's never going to be the same after the pandemic, but we are learning to do concerts and other artistic activities different. And I think we just have to, get with it. We're gonna have to learn to do it differently and to consume it differently and to enjoy it differently for a while, in the hopes that we can go back to packed concert halls and movie theaters and
Yeah, but I also
stadiums.
think, it is going to be different when we go back, and I think that is a huge opportunity. I think of how this kind of era of extreme communication allows us to collaborate internationally in ways that that might have been prohibited before because of our own mindsets, or how forever people in disability communities were told that they couldn't work from home, when now companies are seeing, because it's economically viable, that in fact not only can they work from home, which is the right equitable thing to do, but it actually benefits them. So how can we use these moments to actually further change and be change agents, which is really the history of being an artist.
Right. That was actually my next topic that I wanted to review with you guys. It was, it's been hard on everyone. It's been weird. It was unexpected, but something good must have come out of this. Even now, I mean, I know looking back, we're going to be able to remember longingly about the time we got to spend with our children or with our parents, or the free time that we had to create or to just submerge ourselves in our projects. But right now, if you had to say something right now that you find that it's not that bad, as far as your creative processes go, what would you say it is? Both of you, of course.
Well, to me, and I'm very careful about saying this because I know the experience of isolation, there are many different experiences of isolation.
They're not the same for anyone.
With all due respect of those that having a non, a very, very hard isolation experience. To me personally, after, making the adjustments of survival and traveling and moving around, and because I live in New York, and so after that part has been solved, and after all the overwhelming ideas and everything, to me, I think it gave me the opportunity to stop for a second, and I think this is going to lead me to something that we want to share together, Paola and I. As New York-based artists, you just go. And I've been going for 15 years. And this means creating, learning, growing, evolving, reimagining, making things happen, making the impossible possible. So I've seen National Sawdust grow from nothing. I've seen myself traveling the world and sharing my music, playing with incredible collaborators. And all of a sudden, everything stopped. And to me, it has been an experience of, first of all, being incredibly grateful for what has been built over the years as an artist and as a person, what New York pushed you to be, to find your true nature as an artist and as an individual. So for me, it's been a journey of gratitude of the people that has opened their doors to me and that has believed in me throughout these years, including, of course, Paola and many, many other friends and supporters throughout these years in New York and around the world, including, of course, the Mexican diplomacy and the cultural house in my country that has been an incredible support for me to fly and to really, expand my work, having this structure. But now I think, as Paola said, I think it's been revealing a new opportunity to do things differently. Paola and I have had this conversation off the record, being a woman in New York, as an artist, as a producer, it's not easy. And it creates, a very thick skin. And you have to sacrifice a lot. You have to, it's not an easy conversation. And to me, I have arrived into a point, and this isolation has helped me to realize that there are many ways to do things, that I can, if I had the energy and the aim and the willing to create what I have created, I can transform it into a more effortless way to do things with more well-being around me, without hurting myself, traveling all over the world and, really exhausting situations. But still I miss New York big time. I miss the spirit of the New York community and the so stimulating community that is. And because of that, it took us like 1 month since the COVID started that Paola and I were like, what are we going to do now? Well, let's do something together. So I think it's bringing new opportunities, new lights to understanding, new and refreshed ideas of how we do things and what we want to do and what we want to say as well.
Paola?
Magos, you said that so beautifully. I would just add that I think there's, at least in my life, been very few moments where I didn't know what was going to come next. And I think that kind of, repositioning allows me to reset my values and reset my energies and my priorities in ways that I do feel very fortunate to be able to do. And so that's kind of where I'm at right now is, I'm midlife. I've accomplished a lot. But there's a lot that I haven't said, and there's a lot that I haven't done, and there's, things that probably need my energy where I can allocate it better. And so I'm very, scared and excited about how to best use my energy going forward so that I hopefully can have a good impact and participate in the change that I'd like to see. I think on a personal level, it's been incredible to be with my son and my family. I sacrificed a lot to build this space when he was little, and to be able to be with him every day is something I will just cherish for the rest of my life.
Right. Well, we're grateful too. First of all, to have you here with us, to know that you're safe, that you have a space where you can keep creating and producing art and making our lives more beautiful with your work. And please, this is very important for me. I really want you to keep us in mind when you think of ways that we can help the communities with which you work in New York, in the United States, in Mexico, Magos, of course. Just think of us as a partner. We would be more than grateful to collaborate with you and more than honored to do it. And I'm sure that our public would be very, very happy to be able to help with these projects too. So if you think of ways of funding certain projects, we can put them out there for our audiences to share with their loved ones. And I'm sure we can just keep growing this network that now has made our paths cross. Paola, maybe they wouldn't have.
I'm so grateful to be able to speak with you and to also speak with your community. It means a lot.
Yeah, we're very, very happy that you could. And even though this is happening in Brooklyn, in New York, and it wouldn't be my constituents like normally, I think we can start thinking that this new medium must help for that. So just keep us in mind. We're your partners. We're more than happy to help you any way we can. And Magos, again, let me thank you for the huge effort you and Chano went through to give us this beautiful video that is going to be part of the memory of the Institute forever. It just we're going to play it. We're going to play it at the end. So hopefully everyone can see it. It gives me chills just to hear your beautiful voice and the way that Chano played it. And the last credits of the video say, we dedicate it to everyone that has not been able to have a peaceful and isolation as everyone else. The frontline workers, the delivery people, the drivers of public transport, farmers, people in difficult situations in an environment of violence where they have to isolate with the person they fear the most. And all the people that have been able to stay home and have stayed home, because that's half of the work. I want to thank you both again from the bottom of my heart. I feel like I made 2 new friends this afternoon. I'm very proud to have you here and to know you and to be able to say that you were here. And let's stay in touch.
Looking forward to it.
Muchas gracias, Ishnik.
Sí.
Muchas gracias a todos, everyone that made this possible. Stay tuned for this. Isolation is going to bring some new music together and some new collaborations with Paola and myself. And also, I hope you enjoyed the video that we had prepared for you. Muchas
The video,
gracias.
just so everyone knows, it's going to be, that video is going to stay in Magos' YouTube channel, so you can see it there. Should anything happen, well, we try to, to show it to you. And it's going to be on the Mexican Cultural Institute's YouTube channel as well. So you can always go there and see it. We'll make sure to share it on our social media so you can. Thank you very much for being with us this afternoon and helping us celebrate our 30th anniversary. Thank you to everyone at the Institute for their hard work, to Laudable Productions for their great ideas and very hard work as well, and hope to see you very soon.
Muchas gracias.
Adiós. Gracias a todos.
Para decidir si sigo poniendo esta sangre en tierra, este corazón que bate su parche, sol y tiniebla, para continuar caminando al sol por estos desiertos, para recalcar que estoy viva en medio de tantos muertos, para decidir, para continuar, para recalcar y considerar, solo me hace falta que estés aquí, con tus ojos claros ahí. Fogata de amor y guía, razón de vivir mi vida. Ay, ay. Fogata de amor y guía, razón de vivir mi vida. Esta soledad que llevamos todos y las pérdidas, para descartar esta sensación de perderlo todo, para analizar por dónde seguir y encontrar el modo, para aligerar, para descartar, para analizar y considerar, solo me hace falta que estés aquí. Razón de vivir mi vida. Ay, 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 fogata de amor y guía, razón de vivir mi vida. Todo es hermoso y no cuesta